I believe Susan Tollefson holds a space for you and you for your business. And this is going to translate also in life. So if you don't have a business, you want to hang out. It's challenging to have a good relationship with your calendar. When I talk to people, and Susan's going to reiterate this in so many ways, people we are mainly afraid of time. Time is a pain in the keister because it's running away from us. Because time used to be here longer when we were a kid, and now all of a sudden we have tons of things to do. So we need to talk about that relationship with the calendar. So if you are feeling stuck, I want you here so Susan Tollefson can hear that stuck space. Because when Susan and I were together on Monday with the live discussion we had, we discussed that, but it's probably going to come up again today. Some people are already using their calendar, and so now they're like, well, how do I use these tools that Susan Tollefson is going to talk about? Susan is going to bring in her 20 plus years of being in corporate, learning the structure of how to really be sustainable, effective as a productivity coach that really leads with her heart. We do attract entrepreneurs in this show. I know quite a few people that come in, they're not going to be an entrepreneur ever in their life. Every person that we have had in the show today, you can relate with at any level of expertise that you're at. Susan Tollefson is going to bring in the macro level of efficiency, effectiveness, but to chunk it down so that you can have a bite size where she gets to go deep into the calendar. Get your pen, get your piece of paper, and get ready to write down, I hate my calendar, or I love my calendar, but I need to, and just go for it. Type, connect. I'm here to share with Susan. Susan is watching businesses do their thing. And right now, people really, we don't know what our thing is sometimes. There's so much craziness and moving parts. So to use your smart business sense that you're already doing, or you're living life purposefully, Susan needs to share about the calendar so that you can get the craziness of how you want your day and what you want effectively to get done. And you can put it over here so you can look in, see where you are for the day, and know how you can use flex time. What does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about it.
Welcome to the Fresh Inspiration Show with founder and host Rhonda Liebig, energy revitalizer and mindset freedom coach and #1 best-selling author. We are here to freshly inspire you, uplift you, and transform you with our unique Mindset Transformation Entertainment Show. Get ready as we kick it into high gear, arousing your motivation in lifestyle, vitality, and business. But before we walk through the threshold and start the Fresh Inspiration Show, take a deep breath. Check in. What is your level of belief in you to conquer this new world? And then do yourself a favor. Before you exit our show, ask yourself, what is your level of transformation? Because we know if you believe it, you can achieve it. And that's why the biggest, best, and boldest inspirers are here for you right now. Buckle up. Yeah, you've got this.
Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh inspiration. Fresh
Susan Tollefson, welcome in.
Oh, thank you. I love what you said about relationship with time and the calendar. Everyone's got an opinion about that. Everyone's got their own relationship with that. So I've worked with people that feel very restricted by their calendar. They don't like the idea of scheduling things because it's not the way that they flow, and they feel like it's not enough flexibility. It's not how their day goes. And then there's other people that love the calendar, that want to know how to use it even more to help them. So I want to talk about helping people how to organize their time in a more conscious way so that they are consistently getting, as Sabina was saying, the priorities, what's important to them in their life, and what is, I guess, not going unconscious around being how busy you are. So getting sucked into the busy hole is like going unconscious and just thinking about, or not thinking about, what the larger picture is for you, and kind of what your goals are and what your priorities are. There's that sense that someday I'll get to that, and that's maybe a I don't want to say cop out, but it's it's kind of based on fear that I can't think about that right now, or I don't have time to think about that right now. So I have a few tips to help organize your time, and there's five main ingredients that I want to tell you about that you need to know about to help you. I guess I also call this create your calendar for success. So the number one thing is, again, what Sabina talked about, is to get clear about what's important to you. What are your priorities? I work with a lot of solopreneurs. They spend a lot of time on their business. As it grows, their personal life shrinks, and their complaint is, I don't have time, for family or for, what feeds me, what my self-care routine is. Those types of things are the first things to go. So entrepreneurs, a lot of them start out their businesses by themselves, and they do everything. They do their graphic design, they design their flyers, they write their marketing content, they design their websites, they do their own bookkeeping, things like that. And that is a typical way to get your business started. But at some point, you have to remember why you're doing your business. It's because you love what you do and you love helping people. And so you want to spend the majority of your time on your thing, whatever that is. And the stuff that you're not good at, you want to give away to somebody else. So I also work with solopreneurs about how to free up their time, how to focus more on the important stuff. So there's lots of stuff that comes up with that, about money and about my baby. My business is my baby. I don't want other people to take care of it. So it's hard to let go of that. So those types of things come up, especially if you haven't managed people before, or if you haven't had that experience. It can be a little hard to let go of. But it's actually very a very conscious thing to do. Rhonda, did you have a question?
Yeah. You're all looking at me. You're like, why are you so concerned, Rhonda? What's going on? Well, you bring up an important point here. Now, I first want to share with you that Debbie Turnus is here. She says, scheduling my activities on my calendar helps keep me focused on what is important. After taking Susan's Create Your Calendar for Success workshop, I set up all my activities and commitments through September. So this is somebody that Debbie is a person that's connected with the calendar. She says, this is what I'm learning from you, Susan. And then she said, I find using calendar empowering rather than restrictive. That's a good person to work with, huh? It's like, then you get to go and play with it, but I know you're going to get the restrictive area too, because Laura Kelchin was here. I tagged her too, because she's around somewhere. So Laura, I tagged you because she instant messaged me, Susan, right after we had this conversation, and she wanted to talk about the restrictive areas. So give ample space on that area. You know, we're going to have people that are feeling this.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I didn't want to let things go because I didn't know how to manage people in this new area. And so when you brought that up, it confused me in my brain. Like all of a sudden you hit something, a chord. Because when I was in CPAs, in corporate as a CPA, I managed people. As an entrepreneur, I only knew how to do things by me touching it and moving it. And so when I tried to hire people to kind of start helping, me move things, my brain had to like relearn how do I want to run what I'm doing. And so when you're looking at that for people and you're thinking about like letting things go, and you're talking about the calendar, and then also you have to look at the people that can help you along the way too, because we're talking about being effective. Do you find that the resistance can be around that kind of stuff too, where you've worked for somebody and now you're working for yourself and you have all these decisions to make when you start piecemealing it off? Because the calendar can help you, which we're mainly focused on today. But that release also to get into that calendar space and be ready to use it is you have to release some stuff. So there's a learning curve there, I'm feeling. Is that
there is?
Accurate?
Yeah, there's a learning curve and being comfortable. That comes up when you are faced with too much to do, but not sure like what to give away. A lot of times I tell people to write things down when they're not sure what to give away, because there is more than you think, I believe, besides the obvious things like bookkeeping. And bookkeeping, I believe, is like one of those things you should, unless you're a bookkeeper or you have accounting background, should not do yourself. So it's one of the first things that I tell people to get an expert to help them with. But another thing is to track your time for a few days, figure out, so this helps you in a couple of ways. One, it helps you figure out what the repetitive things are that you do over and over that someone else might be able to do, what takes up a lot of your time. So it gives you some insight into that, but also gives you insight into how many times do I get distracted a day and what interrupts me. Those are time sucks that when you start to write down like what your day looks like, you realize you have a lot of opportunities to be more efficient with your time. And so this is not a judgment thing. It's more of a observation thing. And two other experts have also commented on as being curious and coming at it from that opportunity. It's an opportunity. So a lot of people kind of get judgment, I guess, on themselves about, how they're not good at this or that. But it's really kind of, it's beyond that. It's not really about you and your stuff. It's more about, having a more pragmatic approach to, being curious and helping yourself in that way, right? Mm-hmm. So the first thing I talked about was being aware of your priorities and what's important to you, and kind of like not waiting for that someday. So whatever that takes for you, journaling, or, what adds purpose to my life, what makes me feel good. As Sabina was saying, what gives me joy. Those types of things are, I encourage you to add those things more regularly, and actually put them on your calendar ahead of time, so that you're not faced with trying to fit something in that you never seem to have time for. And all of us have those things that we never seem to have time for. So once you know what those are, then you can plan ahead and, schedule them out every week or every day, or whatever frequency feels good to you. And then they're there on the calendar. And then that also forces you to make a choice when you come to that time on your calendar. I've set aside this time for this. And so that actually gives you an opportunity, again, to make a conscious choice about, I am not going to do this. That also opens up curiosity about, okay, well, why don't I want to do this? So is it the wrong time of the day for me? Do I not have enough energy right now to do this? So it, helps you through the process.
Susan, I'm finding that that question is a great question to ask every day. So do you want to say that question again that you just said?
About coming to that activity that you've scheduled for yourself?
Yeah.
That gives you an opportunity to ask the question, is this, why don't I want to do this right now?
That's a good question. Okay. And why I was thinking about holding the space for that is it's a new awareness. Tell me what you think about this. And audience, please add in. I am seeing this as a really powerful question when you start looking at your energy. You brought up the energy and like how you're getting connected with it. It helps me know what direction, if I'm going the right direction for the day. So I get the opportunity. It gives us opportunity. It gives us opportunity to say, energetically, am I growing my business the right way? Energetically, am I supposed to be doing this? Energetically, is this really something that I need to let go, because maybe I have maybe a little something to learn, and so I may hold on to it for just another couple days or a month, and then I'm ready to let it go. So do you find that people are finding different layers and reasons of how to answer that question?
Yeah. So for example, when I write, when I started doing this myself, paying more attention to what worked and what didn't work at certain times of the day, I know that writing for me is a somewhat stressful process, and I need a lot of time and space to not feel overwhelmed by it. And I also need to have enough energy, not just physical energy, more about mindset kind of thing. So I will not schedule time in the afternoon after lunch to write, because I realized that every time I came to it, I asked myself that question, how come you don't want to do this? The answer was, I am too tired right now. I can't focus on that. So now I always do it first thing now, or on the weekends even, to give myself space to be, have that creative thought. Right. So, so asking yourself those questions gives you insight into, what time of the day is best for this. Mm-hmm. Or it might bring up other things about procrastination. Why don't I want to do this right now? It's because it's overwhelming and, hard. And maybe I haven't broken this down so much. So if people say, I'm going to use this time to work on my website, I think that could be overwhelming to some people, because it's just like a big thing that involves many steps. So you could break it down to, okay, I give this tip all the time for procrastination. You just break things down into smaller steps. So the first thing you would do is, what is the number one thing I can do right now to move myself more towards this? So if to use that example, if it was your website, I would say, what's one step that I need to do right now? You know, do I need to get more information for something? Do I need to just write my ideas down? So things like that are a way of not making something so overwhelming and just making it into a smaller step. The other thing for procrastination is a lot of times you just need to get started with something. So you use that same tactic where you say, I'm just going to, write down my thoughts about this. You can set a timer for 10 minutes and start to work on whatever it is that you're doing. I'd say a vast majority of the time you go past the 10 minutes. It's just something that helps break that resistance barrier, to something that's overwhelming or something that's not the most fun thing to do.
Susan, thinking about this, and we may have talked about this a couple days ago, and it's something to bring up. Like, you talk about even adding your self-care into your calendar.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if I wake up in the morning and I feel overwhelmed, it might be because I'm not feeling as much energy as I did the days before, whatever. It was easier for me to opt out of this pretty robust schedule I have for myself in the morning, but it's years of putting it together. So I have to make that decision, and I think the calendar helps, because if you look at something in a really, really big sense, then you're already tapping out before the day even starts.
Yeah.
So if I feel that I have my calendar in process, that it's there, I know what my day is, it's a choice of, am I going to allow myself to get overwhelmed? And look at that, like what's showing up for that. But that calendar is taking care of me. So now, since I don't have as much energy, my vibration is down low, there's these 3 really big things I love to do. It can take up to 3 hours so I can get into my day. And people can be 10 minutes. That's how range this can be.
Mm-hmm.
So I just go, so since my calendar's taking care of me, and this is my truth I'm speaking about business and personal, I can go and slowly get into my meditation, because sometimes I'm resistant of that even. So I'm so tired, my brain can't concentrate. And so then I go through my steps, but I take it slower because I know my calendar has me, and I don't have to worry at the macro level of all the, being in business for 12 years, there's a lot of moving parts. If you're starting off, there's a lot of moving parts we're getting used to. So right now, I just want to say I feel very empowered. And this is something that's been coming up lately, because I can be like, energy, 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 energy. And I'm like, oh, today I'm not feeling that. So that's a new thing. You really gave me a big aha around that. Thank you.
Yes, and then the other thing that you were mentioning was being restrictive or having that resistance to the calendar. One thing to remember is that it can give you freedom, and it's not restrictive, it's freedom. And so that goes along with that example you just used about your calendars got you taken care of, so that you don't have to worry about those things, that might be coming up for you in the back of your mind. Also that nagging feeling like I'm forgetting something. So it gives you freedom in that sense, but also that it helps you organize your time in a way that works for you, in a way that makes you more successful, makes you more happy, to be more deliberate and be more conscious, right? So it's also good to remember that in that is freedom, even if you've got resistance. And you don't have to, it's not one of those things that you can form a habit for most people overnight. It's one of those things that you work on consistently. Like a lot of areas in our lives, we work on things consistently to make, consistent progress. This happens to be more tangible. So things like most of us use our calendars to keep track of our appointments, but not so much of us to take that extra step to schedule what I'm going to do today, like the things I want to accomplish. So I always tell people to start with just the 3 most important things. If their to-do list is too overwhelming, to just pick out, the 3 most important things that are pressing and schedule that at a particular time. Kind of notice it, one, if that's the right time of the day for you, if you've given yourself enough time. Those types of things that's like an easy way, a simple way to get started, and it gives you immediate results as far as being more organized and being more conscious about what you want to get done in that time. The other thing I wanted to mention was I get asked a lot about my to-do lists. Like most people have very long to-do lists.
Can we
So
kind of hold that? I have something from the audience.
What's that?
Can I hold that for a moment? And
Yes.
You have
Yes.
from the audience.
Yes.
Okay, so Debbie Turnus said, sometimes I schedule my walk mid-morning so I get some body movement, energy movement, so I can be more productive. So she's talking about freedom, huh? Like that if she does that, then she can add freedom into her day. It's like this time that she gets to hold and refresh, which as entrepreneurs we can overwork with our passion. It says, I know that works for me. I love that Susan Tollefson is talking about how she manages her tasks with her energy levels.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's one of those things that as you do this practice more often, you realize you come in tune with what works for you at what specific times and kind of what your resistance is. And again, with that curiosity and that not judgment place of just, asking yourself those questions about why am I resisting this right now? That creates a space to get past that and not just to be, forget it kind of thing, kind of attitude. So the other thing I was mentioning was the to-do list. I have created over the last probably couple of years what I call a do not forget list. And that is for those things that you write down on the to-do list over and over and over, and they just stay there. And they're important enough that you want to capture them somewhere, but not important enough to be a priority like on any given day. So I move all those things to another list, and I just look at it like once a week or once, every couple of weeks. And it just gives me peace of mind to know I haven't forgotten something. And it makes my calendar, now that I can schedule the things that are really important and not forget those other things that aren't so important. So a lot of people love that tip.
Yeah, I used to think I had to get everything done.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other day, but it's the feeling that like I want to tie a bow around my day, and then there was self-judgment that I couldn't tie my bow because there's these events or things that should be happening, these keep rolling into every day, and I felt that my frequency, my vibration of what I was doing I felt like a failure because I thought that I was supposed to do everything that my brain thought I should be doing. And so do you find that people they can have stuff on their desk and they do not want to throw it away or get rid of it because they believe that they are that it's something that they have to get to, just like the calendar, like your list, your schedule. But when you put it off onto your other list, what was that list you called? Would you call that list?
Do not forget list.
Do not forget list. I need to type it here. Do not forget list. And it can also be like papers on the desk, but we're talking about the calendar, but that all kind of works together, huh? But do you find that some people find that the things that they kept moving forward, that they really don't need to do it, but for some reason, maybe at some time they thought they did, but
Yeah.
they didn't get to it because it really doesn't fit into the current puzzle. Maybe something big in the future, or maybe like, here, I'm not going that direction at all. It was just a fleeting thought, and it's off the task list that can bring you down.
Yeah. A lot of that stuff for me is like business development stuff. Ideas that I have around classes or content I want to write or something like that. It's just that, and even like look at somebody's website, research a book, things like that are just important in the moment that you capture them and you have some place to put them. But, also notice the things that you do or that you write down over and over that never seem to get done. So, and there's, that's another place to get curious as well, is like, do I just not want to forget this, or am I avoiding this for some reason? Because that's another place that, again, if you're avoiding it, maybe it's overwhelming to you or hard to organize or something like that, that you could break down into smaller pieces. So that is another tip that I wanted to give as far as, when you're clear about what it is that's important to you, just make those things a priority, schedule them on your calendar, make them non-negotiable, question if you're not getting around to them, or when the time comes that you've set aside for something and you're choosing to do something else instead, there's to be curious about why that is. Another thing is to be aware of what your mindset is around your calendar. So am I friends with my calendar? Do I not appreciate my calendar? Mindset has to do with also being aware of what your habits are around how you get things done. Do I wait to the last minute to do things? Do I maybe need to look at that? Should I maybe schedule things, further ahead of the date than I normally would? Do I need to create a deadline here? Things like that. Mindset also is very much tied in with what's important to you and your priorities. So knowing that gives you purpose, and conscious intention around those things that are important. That also has to do with mindset. Another thing is planning. So planning is putting your priorities and goals into some kind of actionable step. Like I brought up the example of the website earlier. Website is a huge project, as most of us know. So having the ability to break that down into doable pieces, and then schedule those things so you're moving forward every week, making progress, is one way to not get stuck. Just break things down into small pieces. So, and being aware of, again, your priorities so that you can plan. The other thing that's important is structure. So the calendar is all about structure. Ooh. And all about, how to, organize your time so that it's reasonable. You don't get burned out. You don't work 12-hour days without a break. That's another thing to put on your calendar is breaks and lunch that most people don't do because you fit it in whenever they get tired or they need a break or something. But I would encourage you to put in a regular time for breaks and for lunch, because that, if you're burned out and not, running low on blood sugar or something, you can't concentrate and you're not going to be at your best and do your best work, during that time.
I like having, okay, so when we put in our calendar, like what you said, like that is now your structure, and be loving to it. That is your structure, because your structure really is your freedom. So if you see a break coming up, what I'm hearing from you is like, take the break, don't ignore, because your calendar knows better than you now, because that was you putting the calendar together. I mean, you can have a whole fight within yourself, even though you
Yeah.
can blame it on your calendar now, because now it's like an individual breathing machine here, because it's going to change whatever you decide. So you can keep blaming your calendar, but I think you're still fighting with yourself about this. So the calendar, we're revisiting this thing about having a good, you brought this up, about having a good and respectful relationship around the calendar. Do you have any thoughts around that at all, of maybe some tips or respect for your calendar?
Well, I think that, it has to do with your relationship with it. If you examine why it doesn't work for you, like the person that resists it because it's of structure. They don't like structure. And a lot of entrepreneurs are that type because they're very creative and not so left brain sometimes. So the calendar is a left brain kind of activity. So it's not automatic. It doesn't automatically come to some people, and it's an easy enough concept to understand as far as we all get it. And filling out your calendar is one of those things that's easier said than done, because you can, have intentions about what you're going to do, but it depends on what happens during the day as to how well you stick to your calendar or your schedule. So, as far as your mindset around it, I would examine those things that in yourself that, why don't I think a lot of people, have anger around or resentment, around the calendar, and you're making me do things that I don't want to do. So I think some of that stuff comes up, but, again, if you've got, like CJ said, even you can have compassion for yourself around the calendar and around just kind of, being in a loving kind of way, examining what it is that's in your way. You can make small little breakthroughs, again, not to say to completely change your habits overnight, because I don't think that's realistic for most people, that they can all of a sudden, start to follow a schedule if they're not used to it. Because all kinds of things can happen, and there's always an opportunity to, like I said, with the writing down what you do all day, there's always opportunities to figure out where you get distracted, what the best time of the day is to do stuff, what to give away. So, tracking your time that's one of the things that I recommend right away that people do, because it just gives you a lot of insight into what happens during your day.
Okay, so at the top of this, when we first started off, we were talking about tracking your time. So that seems reasonable. Okay, so I need to know my schedule and really see what I'm doing. And then that helps us also piecemeal some stuff off that we know, okay, I can see somebody doing that. I can see myself making more income if I let this stuff go. So I want to pay this person, and I want to start getting into some other areas. And so and then you have your calendar, because now you've written down, your day. What is the process for that? Because I don't think that ever really leaves you, huh? Is it a quarterly thing or a monthly thing where you should review your day again and make sure like the calendar's working for you, that maybe you might need to shift something off to somebody? Like, is that, I feel like that's a breathing thing also, a breathing process that just doesn't leave you. What's the tip or whatever you believe that should be in that journey for somebody?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you just repeat
The
last part of what you said?
Mm-hmm. The question is that should you review your day more than just the first part of the beginning of using your calendar? Say somebody's just starting to use their calendar, you're saying, okay, let's have some days here where you're tracking things, then we're going to be able to connect, make friends with the calendar, or empower you. When do you think they should go back and track again their day to make sure, like revisit? Is that like a tool?
Yeah, I think it is. I was just talking to somebody the other day that said that they do it like every month, that they are, always looking at, but that's kind of a thing that's on their mind. So it's, something that they welcome, and they like to know where they can be more efficient. So it's, something for them that's important, so that they look at that. But I would say, pretty much, to be conscious, to pay attention. That's what conscious means. To pay attention to, again, where you schedule things, what the flow is for you, what works, what doesn't work, what you need more time for. It's just always a fluid thing. And so again, if you have that mindset of making friends with the calendar and not like being resentful of it, I think that's an important thing to work on, is to have that openness to for the process.
Susan, have you heard this before? And I've heard this more than once, and it's, I believe, a powerful thing to bring in this conversation about the calendar. I've heard people say, I don't want to make plans, or I don't want to put a specific time on something, because if I do that, then my day goes by fast, and then whatever the story is around that. What shows up? Like I hear a sabotage, like something happening, that people's having a story around the calendar, but if it's bringing freedom, so that confuses me when people say that. So do you hear that from people?
I do. I also observe it. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go into that. So I'm thinking of this one client who they have that. They want the flexibility to be able to do whatever comes up in the moment, and not have any particular structure. And so that is one. It's a combination of what their style is, as far as their relationship with the calendar. They don't make it a priority. They don't think it's that important for them. Now, the other thing is they go unconscious around time. So even if you try to schedule your day, this happens, you get a couple hours into your day and the whole thing just goes out the window, because you just forget. It's not a habit, you just forget. So that also contributes to it. Another thing is you don't have enough help or the right systems in your business to help you do things efficiently. So you take longer to do things. So it's a combination of things that play into that particular scenario.
So are we talking about flex time then? Is that what you're kind of...
Flex time could be a component. So flex time has to do with having a block of time, I'd say most every day, that is flexible, meaning, if something comes up, it took you longer to do, it could go into your flex time. Something that comes up that you didn't plan can go into your flex time. So it just allows you some flexibility with the time, not to, I definitely do not encourage people to schedule things back to back, because that hardly ever works out. As far as having enough time, things always happen faster in your head than they do in reality. So also to allow, plenty of time between things. And it used to be things like travel, but we don't really do that these days anymore. People used to book appointments and forget that they have to, get in the car and go somewhere. So they're just always running late.
Running late. It does help you, huh? With running late, if you use your calendar, it could shift your whole world if you've had that issue before. It can shift so many things about your timing and knowing where you are in the day.
It can, but also to give yourself, if you have to be somewhere at 11 o'clock, say you have to be there at 10:45. And if you have that, allow yourself that time. If you're running late all the time, chances are you're going to get there on time.
I like, so as a creative being, I do know that if I get into writing, it is hard to get into. I'm getting better at it because it's one of my things that I want to do more consistently. Now I'm starting to like it more. I had some fear around it. So if I'm in my writing and I'm saying 1 hour for writing, and if I go over that because I'm just loving it, Um, I like to be able to have the calendar so that I can be aware that I have other things to get done. Because it's easy for us to put sales off.
Yeah.
And so that's a big deal. I mean, we both work with business owners, and in the community, please tell me about this, how you feel about this. But when somebody says, if this shows up for you, if someone says, well, I don't have time to make those calls. And, we always go back to, well, of course you need to. And it's wonderful to connect because when you get comfortable doing that, but all of a sudden you have no time to do that. So taking care of the calendar can help you grow income. Because you get, and friendships. Friendships are the people that have same mindset. You're not there in your solo space, but you're connecting. You can get lost if you don't do that. And
that's actually a good example of putting sales time in your calendar. That could be something that when the time comes, something else happens that's more to your liking to do at that time instead of picking up the phone or reaching out to people. I think that's one of those things that's a good example of when that time comes for you to do something, and you can be unconscious around this, like, I have to do this little thing over here first. It seems more important than, and it's because you're avoiding something. So this is actually, it's good for helping you root out those things that, are in your way of a more successful business. So not only does it help you organize your time so that you're making time for that, but also helps you be more, helps you grow and be more aware of the places that you get stuck.
I love that.
I want to mention one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, this all sounds pretty straightforward. But I just want to give a few tips so that people have a place to get started.
Okay.
So you start by creating your foundation, and that is writing down all the things that you already know about in your calendar, which most of us kind of have, some kind of structure around that, appointments and so forth. Think about, like Rhonda mentioned, an excellent things that entrepreneurs have to do is do the sales calls and reach out, do some kind of marketing and sales. So I would definitely, put time in your calendar for that. And also to think about the things that you never get around to doing that are important to you, that, schedule some time ahead of time to do that as well. And actually make time in your day, like Rhonda said, to plan your day, maybe 15 minutes in the morning. Just kind of pick, like I said, maybe the three most important things, or have some kind of structure around what it is that you want to get done that day. Also allow extra time for things. Like flex time is one thing, but also notice how long things actually take you to do. So if you schedule an hour for something, when you're first starting out with this, I would schedule maybe an hour and a half to do something. And then you're more realistic about how long it actually takes you to get things done. And then I want to say something about making a commitment to yourself, that, you're creating this schedule now with some intention. So these things are important to you, and they're important enough to write down. So start your day with the intention of following your schedule as best as you can. But also, I guess be kind to yourself around those things that come up that, again, are obstacles for you, things that derail you, things like that, will help you be more intentional with your time if you start out the day with the commitment to yourself that you're going to, that this is important to you, and that you're going to stay conscious around it. It doesn't mean perfection. It just means making decisions that are more in alignment with where it is that you want to go in your life and how you want to use your time.
love it. This is a marathon today. I'm pouring water as we're going along. Anybody else in this marathon with me? Woo! Some great stuff. Let's open it up. Experts, share with me. I have been watching people take notes, so I know things have been opening up. I know I think I said what I had to, but as people talk, I may need to add in some more. Susan, your experience and how you share things, I feel not judged. I feel that I'm seeing where the opportunities are in my calendar and also when I get lost in my writing and how I can manage through that. And getting lost in my day when I'm doing something and allowing that to happen in my day and realize that there were some really big things that I wanted to get done and I decided to ignore my calendar that day. So it's like a rebirth every day of your commitment to your calendar so that you're successful.
Yeah, and to yourself, that's what it comes down to, the commitment to yourself.
Who wants to add in? I saw people taking notes.
Obviously, yes. Thank you, Susan. That was really, really helpful and a good reminder. I used to calendar for an elected official for 15 years. I should know how to run a good calendar. It doesn't quite translate into my life. So this was a real good reminder on how to do that. I especially like the extra list to-do things, instead of constantly just transferring, and then you never get done because of that. I call it a success if I can check off 3 boxes in a day, but 4 move on, and it's frustrating. So that was a really good tip. And I like your creating an attitude of liking your calendar and seeing, I especially like the structure equals freedom. So that to me is, okay, I'll work on that. That is beautiful. No, that very, very insightful. Yes, I'm on page 6 of my notes.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Susan, I find it interesting that Sabina brings up that, she's helping somebody else with the calendar and she's like, yeah, I better be aware of what I'm learning some good stuff here, even though she lived the life of that, but it's cool to be able to hear that story because we all have our different issues around the calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
I thought this was great, Susan. My calendar is my brain. So you gave me some great ideas and tips that I can put to use right away. And I too like the do not forget list. That's perfect. I have little stickies everywhere.
Exactly.
So this can replace those.
So many people like that one. I guess a lot of people have the, to-do lists that are very long.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Rhonda, I forgot to tell people that I'd like to give them a copy of my ebook if they would like that.
Mm.
And
Yeah, you have space. We have some minutes here, but if you want to share that right now, please share what that is. We'll make sure when we recap in a moment too that we got everything.
yeah, so if you'd like a copy of my ebook, it's called 5 Keys to Conquer Overwhelm. And it just send me an email with ebook in the subject line. And my email is susan@insideoutbiz.com.
I can hear that this ebook is going to be pretty awesome. I think you have some more stuff coming up, so we need to make sure we talk about that before we let you go. You just always have things going on that's really awesome. Hey, Donna, I see your hand up. You're ready, my friend.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Susan, because I am working a regular job and I have the things to deal with still with my husband, but one of my oldest friends and I are putting together a thing where we put the advocacy whole idea together, and we're just in the brainstorming spot right now. And so this will help keep me moving on the action steps. And so when my friend and I can't get together, that I can still keep moving on this. So I really appreciate that. And don't forget that one's a great one, because I have a whole bunch of sticky notes on pieces of paper saying like, oh, I got to remember this, I got to remember that, but it's not critical at this point.
Exactly.
So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone loves that one.
Donna, in your creative mind right now, Donna's a very creative being. There's a lot of things that where her mind goes, because she was talking about how John was writing a book, and Donna and John writing a book, mainly Donna reviewing and them talking about it and him creating. And but Donna, you're in this space of when you feel that freedom in your body as you're going through your process with John passing on, is that this creativity, it can go really fast. So to give yourself space so that you can, like, you know, put it in vocals somewhere, but you have it on your calendar. And so in the back of your brain, while you're working or doing your things, your back of your brain, I can hear, will be able to start doing this creative thing. So when you say like 11 o'clock, I'm going to be doing this, like your brain's already prepping up. And so you don't have to have it here. It's just on your calendar. And then you go, oh, 11 o'clock. And then your brain's going to probably go so fast, you may need to have a recorder and just start, because I know that there's a lot of things you want to do out there. So yes, calendar, empowering.
Yes.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, Susan, because every time you speak about productivity, the calendar touches everything. We talked about the letting things go, looking at things that can stress you out because it's been on your task list forever. Relationship with your business, because it does translate to your calendar, because how can we carry all this in our head?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use, it's almost like a 1 + 1 = 2, but in our brain it feels like 1 + 1 = 3, which doesn't make sense. Oh, I guess my old CPA brain is coming in with numbers like that. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems logical. It doesn't matter if you're retired, if you own a business, if you're working for somebody, all of it helps everything move forward. Or if you're a new advocate, like what Donna was talking about. Carolyn, I quoted you, that your calendar is your brain. That's truth for everybody when you get that. Is there, besides you being here today, you got your ebook, which of course you're going to put everybody make sure you put your information in our journey today too in this video. But is there anything else you have going on? I think that, because once Susan is able to connect with you, then she'll have your information and be able to, share with you some additional things that are going on. But I'd love for you to share it just vocally here.
Well, one thing that I have going on is I have a regular workshop that is called Boost Your Bottom Line. And that's all about it's for solopreneurs. There's ways to free up their time, and also essential systems that they need to run an efficient business. The calendar is also part of the conversation. So it includes strategies for interruptions and distractions, questions to ask yourself about depending on what stage you are in your business, to kind of tighten things up. And again, I think awareness is a big piece of the things that I teach. Have to do with being aware and making choices with your time, and that kind of thing. So my next workshop happens to be tomorrow. It's from 10 to 1. So if you do have my email address, there's a hefty discount for you if you're interested. Again, Susan at insideoutbiz.com. You can just shoot me an email and say if you're interested, and we can talk about more of the details.
And are you gonna type it in here too so they can grab it?
Yes, let me put it in there.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff we've talked about, and I've tagged each one of you, and you may want to be adding that stuff in too. So did we do it, Susan? Did we get all the stuff in the calendar that you? I know the calendar is one that you can go so deep because it touches everything in our life and how it can.
It does, yeah.
Did we get enough in there though for everybody?
I feel like I touched on the high points of kind of like the basics. Of course, I could talk all day about this. So.
Me too.
Unless anybody has specific questions, I feel like I touched on the high points, of just like where to start and what to be aware of, and the do not forget list is something that I feel like is I mention practically every time I talk about that. And procrastination was another thing I touched on that I think people get stuck on, as to how to get unstuck with setting your timer for 10 minutes and getting started on something. Usually the outcome is that you go more than 10 minutes. I think it's like the mind trick, like I can do this for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It's not that hard. It doesn't seem that hard. Most of the time you just need to get motivated or, have a little push. You should try it. Really, it works. I try it on myself all the time.
So Susan, the story that I told about that my calendar was taking care of me, but like if I don't have a lot of energy towards something, if the calendar takes care of you, meaning you've already kind of started putting your stuff in the calendar, you pretty much know what your day is going to look like. And I was talking about there's some days I'll wake up and not have much energy, so I get to really slowly get into it. And I really feel it's like that first 10 minutes, and then after that, I feel like there's no judgment on me. Do you really want to do this? And I've never had my body say no, and because I've slowly done that. So is that like what you're saying? Give yourself the first 10, get in there, and get yourself moving along. That your calendar is going to be able to support you.
Well, there's been a couple of. I can think of a couple of examples for that. So either you wake up and your mind is crazy busy, and you're just like jump out of bed, and most people look at their social media or their email right away, and so that kind of takes them down the wrong road to begin with. So as I mentioned, my tip before we got started was to just so many people I've mentioned here today, is to be with yourself and think about, something that you're grateful for, to center you and kind of notice your breath for, this could, take maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes, not long at all. So that actually gives you the chance to start your day from a calm, centered place rather than, you go unconscious right away the minute you start looking at your email. And that, email is one of those things that we tend to check sporadically during the day. It takes longer than you think. That's another thing that I do recommend putting on the calendar, is to look at your email a couple times a day, 30 minutes maybe.
Taking a note there. Good for Sabina. I have a note too for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of those things. Email is a whole nother subject. A lot of us have, thousands of emails in our inbox, and it's only because there's no decision made around what to do with it. So, that's a whole other thing I could talk about, but it's one of those things that also nags at you, that's overwhelming. Most people have a lot of email.
That's if you are, and I'm starting to transition into me, because I have the 12 o'clock hour, but it's like that's your relationship space. And so I can hear resistance on email in, building the relationships or not feeling comfortable with what you're doing because it might be new, or being overwhelmed because you don't have your calendar in place, that you don't want to go into your email because your email really is your relationship space. And much more.
It can be.
Yeah, the people wanting stuff from you or something,
Yeah, that, or, it's just people that have one email for business and personal. I would recommend that you have one for each, that you don't mix your email. You try to unsubscribe from as many things as you can.